Okay, in example 4, we have the question, how do you graph the reciprocal function, which is y equals 1 over x? So something to remember about a reciprocal is it basically means a flipped fraction. So I've included the definition. It maps every non-zero real number to its reciprocal. So it flips every number. So that means if I put x equals 4 into my function, then it'll come out with a y value of 1 over 4. So it just flips it and puts, instead of 4, it puts it underneath 1. So I've included the table from the textbook here. And first question is, why is 0 undefined? Well, if I put 0 in for x, I get 1 divided by 0, which is not allowed. So I'm going to make a little note of no divide by 0. Whoops. So you can never divide by 0. So would I include it in the domain and range? No. So since I can't divide by 0, that's the one rule that I cannot ever have x be 0, because it'll give me a y of an error, or an error for y. So I graphed 1 over x in Desmos, and I get this picture. So this I just got from Desmos, or you can put it in your graphing calculator. But as you can see, I have a split in this function. I have this piece that I'm tracing on the left, and I have this piece that I'm tracing on the right. So your first order of business is to figure out, well, what values kind of broke that function that I can see. Well, I noticed that at x equals 0, I have a quote break. So x equals 0 looks like no good. But at the same point, this axis looks like my function never actually really gets to it. It gets super, super close. And that value is y equals 0. So we call these things asymptotes. I included the definition from the textbook down here. So it's a line that your graph approaches. Basically, it never actually touches it, even no matter how close it looks. So it describes the end behavior. As you notice, I'm getting closer and closer to 0. I'm getting closer and closer to 0 as you get further and further down your function. So you recognize them as, I think of them as kind of, where does my function break? Or where does it separate? Break. That's the way I look at the graph. This is basically our excluded values in the domain and range.